long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. So long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. So long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. So long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. Oh, right. Um, so long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. 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 So long, farewell, avitas and goodbye. I don't want offense. I want reaction videos. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next reading. Let's see. This will be part 3 of the Foundation Alchemy Department. I'll be starting off with Restoring Harmony. I hope you all enjoy it. Restoring Harmony. And thus do I decree that Urbel and the Citadel within shall henceforth be the stronghold of alchemy. Let all who challenge the wise take note that within these walls is the sanctum of balance. Excerpt Decree of Urbel by Amarsin. The streets of the citadel of Erbil were unfamiliar beneath the purple-shod feet of Roslav Diaghilev. He'd been instructed to seek out the citadel by Elder Hayan, but the only indication where he was supposed to go was the intrinsic pull from within him, leading him in winding circles through the alleys. The aether currents of this area were a hurricane of color, swirling and darting here and there. There was no doubt the citadel was home to something important. He could have at least told me what to look for, Roslav thought to himself as his feet were pulled down another side alley. He'd crossed the street 4 times since arriving, but he couldn't stray from his path. Heian's last compulsion was too strong. His eyes were drawn forward to an unassuming door at the end of the dead-end alleyway. There was no indication that this side street was any different from the others, besides a simple 5-pointed star inscribed on the big clay of the alleyway wall. He reached out and gently brushed the symbol, feeling the etheric currents flowing through the points of the symbol. He walked forward and placed his hand on the handle of the door in front of him. There was no lock, but there was something heavy set. But there was a heavy set of etheric currents placed on the wood and metal frame. The dabbler might have called it a ward, but Roslav recognized the flow of the elements through the gossamer light threads of alchemic control. The flows were designed to discourage people from approaching and entering the door, but a simple nudge on the etheric aether dealt with that. He slipped the door open, and it closed softly behind him, the flow restoring itself to harmony. Roslav smiled, having left little trace upon the currents within the door. A dark-skinned man sitting behind a desk just inside the doorway looked up from the large book he was reading. His broad scalp shone with a thin film of sweat above his deep-set, dark-skinned eyes. His mouth was quirked up in a sly smile. His thin frame, the man within tight-fitting His thin frame, the man within tight-fitting linen robes shifted as he stood up. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked in flawless, if accented, Sumerian. Rizov nodded slightly and approached. "Da, I have been instructed to appear here, to present myself to the body." The man smiled a bit deeper, and his hand moved subtly, pressing something on the table. "Body? I'm not sure what you mean. This is simply my master's warehouse." Ruzlov reached into the sleeves of his robe and lifted out a heavy iron disc with a stamped seal on it. "My master's seal." The dark-skinned man leaned forward, studying the coin, before passing a hand over the stamped metal, his eyes widening in recognition. "Ah, this is Elder Hayon's. I suppose you could not have gone through the door without the proper skills either way." Rizov nodded and placed the coin in the small pocket in his sleeve. "Da, I understand. I am Adabeo, apprentice under Master Nipros. Thank you for not dismantling the currents in the door. Thurs always gave me trouble." His voice was mellifluous, obviously used to a more flowing language than the common tongue Sumerian used. The smile on his face was genuine and lit up the young man's contentiousness. "You may go in when you are ready, sir." He gestured towards the wall and smiled a bit deeper. Ruzlov let his senses ring out and felt the illusionary wall clearing. He nodded at the young man and pressed through the false section of wall, his feet crossing from hard-packed clay onto tiled floor. "You're sure it's not too pretentious? I was hardly I would hardly prefer to have alchemists from all over the world come in and think we're just wasting money and resources on strenuous displays of frivolity." Excerpt letter from N. Flamel to unknown recipient. Roslov was stunned. He had seen many wonders in his time, including the experience of having the life energies forced back into his body, but he'd never seen anything like the observatory before. His mouth stood agape, the vaulted ceiling curving away into the dark expanse of the night sky. The apparatus before him slowly circled in celestial patterns from all over the sky. Roslov recognized one as the twin worlds of Arnos in the far distant skies. He had visited a world with the aid of a colleague in Komalast. Before meeting his encounter with Elder Hayan. The city of ever-grinding salts had proven an ample ground for alchemy to take root. Alagada was course of course still considered the primary breeding grounds for the alchemic experimentation. But the rumors coming from the great city had become unnerving. The Scarlet King, always eccentric, had moved from curiosity to cruelty in his nobility. There were whispers of people going missing in the streets, to disappear into the halls of the Scarlet King's laboratories. Roslav's eyes traced the movements of distant stars, the aether flowing around the observatory surrounding him, then changing the vista to match his eyes. The star maps changed and shifted, meandering through Helen's cluster down to the constellations. Roslav barely noticed the young man walk out of the entrance, absolutely entranced by the observatory in front of him. A moment passed in silent wonder before the dark-skinned man from the entryway walked through the wall behind him, standing beside the awestruck alchemist. Wondrous, isn't it? When I first arrived, I could only stare at it too. Roslav snapped out of his reverie and looked over at Adabeo, the aether flow normalizing around him. I did not notice you. My apologies. Who's watching the door? Adabeo smiled and looked at the observatory with distant sighs. Journeyman Xian. He paused for a moment, looking over at the older, heavy-boned man. Do you need help finding someone or something? Roslav nodded, and his clear gray eyes met Adabeo's. I'm here to meet with the elders of the 13th Circle. Adabeo's eyes widened. The 13th? Are you certain of that? Roslav nodded and pulled a folded letter from his left sleeve and opened it to the last fold. 2 scrawled names were unrecognizable among the Sumerian. Which Adabeo recognized as elders Alimipiodoris and Nagarjun. He nodded and bowed slightly. I apologize, Eder. I had no idea that you had such pressing business. Roslav's mouth contorted slightly beneath his bushy gray mustache. I am no elder. Not yet. I am simply Ruslav, or if you're feeling formal, Mr. Diagolef. Adabeo nodded and gestured to a staircase to his right. Please follow me. Down the staircase was some kind of open-air lecture hall, and they passed several tables laden with books and various small apparatuses. Young men and women sat before the tables, described over by several older alchemists in robes of every color imaginable. One of the presiding alchemists, no more than 4 feet tall, was floating on a small sphere of quartz with a cushion on top. Roslav could tell the alchemic currents holding the quartz up. He never felt the aethers as strongly as it did in this place. There was like a constant flow around him of every conceivable shade and variety. The short man's voice was soft and fatherly. Remember, astronomy is the science, and astrology is the pseudoscience. We alchemists know how to combine the two to create a true alchemic understanding of astrology. The words faded away as they walked past the tables and to a heavy door of what looked like some kind of obsidian. Adabeo laid his hands on the door and concentrated, the tremendous aether stirring around him, and a reverberation went through the dark glassy material. The doors parted and Adabeo stood back slightly. This is a bit beyond me, but I wish you luck, Mr. Diagolef. Roslav smiled slightly and nodded at the young man. Walking into the richly appointed room that served as a foyer for the offices of the alchemist of the 13th Circle. The walls were soft sandalwood, draped in tapestries, each one showing a different alchemist, performing some major feat of mastery. Kozlov's eyes moved from left to right as his feet glided over the thick carpeting on the floor. The Philosopher's Stone, the first transmutation, the prediction and ending of the Second Alchemic War, he thought to himself before reaching the final tapestry. It was old, much older than the others, and only a few feet long. In it were stitched a few ruins that Rizlov couldn't recognize. He concentrated for a moment, and the aether swirling around him in a dazzling concordance of colors. He felt a strange prickling sensation over his scalp as the ruins settled into something more familiar, the formation of the College of Alchemy, Merlin forming the first compact. Beautiful, aren't they? A woman called out from behind a shallow desk along the wall. Her ash-blonde hair was giving way to gray in places, but her face was that of someone just passing a very vigorous middle age. She wore robes of sky blue, and she looked relaxed as she stood from the chair. Kozlov nodded. My apologies, I do not normally get caught up at looking at such things. Twice in one day, no less, Kozlov admonished himself. It's a common reaction. May I ask what brings you to the 13th circle? Her smile remained pleasant, but he could feel the edge in her tone. His brows knit for a moment before he bowed deeply to the woman, as recognition set in. Elder Perenal, I am honored to meet you. He straightened and withdrew the letter from his sleeve. My master sent in a letter to the college many months ago requesting my interest. I was summoned by one of the 13th circle here to answer for a response. She strode forward and took the letter from Kozlov, slipping a pair of spectacles over her ears and onto her face. Ah, yes. Hayan's request was highly unusual. He outlined your condition in the letter, but we want to see it for ourselves. Rizlov shifted uncomfortably and nodded. I understand. She smiled again, a reassuring and warm expression. Wait here for a moment while I bring the other members of the circle. He nodded in affirmation. I am nearly certain my life will end here after I accomplish this. I ask, however, that this man, Rizlov, be allowed my place in the college in my stead. He has all my knowledge and the will to enact my final project, which you've all been briefed on. Beyond that, here's what we've always dreamed of. Takwin, artificial life. He is as close to a pure weapon against outside threats as we'll ever get. Excerpt. Letter from Elder Hayan to the 13th Circle of the College of Alchemists. Roslov sat in the Spartan office, along with the elders perennaling, along with elders Perenel and Nicholas Flamel. Roslov had endured several hours of questions, prodding, and a comic examination by the 13th Circle before being invited to the Flamel's office. I couldn't believe it myself. Do you realize what you are, Mr. Douglas? The heavy wooden paneling of the walls conveyed a sense of warmth, and the light streaming from the clear glass windows was a soft golden gleam from some artificial source. Kozlov nodded. I am aware of the conditions of my creation perfectly. Everything Elder Heian knew, I know. Elder Nicholas leaned forward. So you're saying you can do it again? Taquin? Create life? Create life? Rizlov, looking, shook his head softly. No, I cannot do this. Master Heian expressly forbid me from enacting this alchemy ever again. I would not dishonor his wishes. The senior alchemist leaned back in his chair, the heavy forescreen robes he wore bunched around his thick forearms. And why not? What's so wrong about it? Rizlov looked into the elder's deep green eyes with conviction. To create life requires that one destroy life. It puts an onus upon the creation. Elder Heian created me, whether he realized it or not, with a compulsion. While I have my own will, I will, or must, eventually obey this compulsion. Elder Peronel took in a breath. God preserve, that's... She looked over at Nicholas, who nodded. I understand. Thank you for being candid. Either way, the other elders have concurred that you've gotten all the knowledge and qualifications to join the Seventh Circle, as Elder Heian wished. Furthermore, we're happy to convey the title of Elder upon you. Congratulations, Elder Digalith. May you walk in wisdom. Nicholas beamed at the newly entitled alchemist and grinned. Congratulations indeed. This is going to certainly light a fire in earth under Henry, though. He's been campaigning to have that Alagadan join the Seventh Circle instead. And it's no secret he disagreed with Heian. Rizlov bowed. Thank you, elders. If it's not too much trouble, I do not have lodgings in the Citadel tonight. Is there a place I could... Nicholas held up a hand, hastily cutting off Rizlov. Of course. We'd insist you stay anyway. We have to hold a congregation to have you installed formally within the circle. I'd like to invite you to our personal guest until then. If you're amiable? Rizlov nodded and bowed his head to the elders again. I would be honored. Thank you, elders. Perenel smiled and waved a hand. Think nothing of it. May I ask you a question, Elder Digalith? Rizlov nodded. Why you? Not to sound rude, but you're from this far Slavic regions, are you not? Rizlov sat back a bit and took a deep breath. Yes, I am from a small village where I studied alchemy from my first master, who was not part of the college. Nicholas raised his head, leaned his head on his hands, his eyes sliding over the bookcase in the corner, idly waving his fingers in his free hands. So you just traveled across the entire world to meet Elder Heian? Rizlov shook his head, his own eyes drifting to the small crystals lining the edge of the desk. My master had sent me to Elder Heian for personal reasons. There was an accident, and I ended up being mortally wounded. Elder Heian tried to heal the wound, but to no avail. The next thing I remember was waking up with Elder Heian over me, claiming he'd unlocked the secrets of Taquin and quickly fell ill. He passed away several months later. I set off immediately for the college as he wished. Elders exchanged glances, and Peronella hesitated for a moment before speaking. Elder, did he ask you to come here for something specific? Rizlov fixed her with a heavy-eyed stare, the intensity which reminded her indelibly of the conviction she saw in Elder Heian's eyes in the many years they'd worked together. The Great Seal. It is time. Elder Heian believed it, and so do I. Nicholas let out a quiet whistle. Do you realize what this is going to do? Who this is going to anger? Roosevelt nodded. Duh. I am prepared for this. We are out of time. We're missing one last key to the Great Seal. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like it's coming closer. When I find it, I will let you know. I don't know if you can get a message to him, but if you can, tell him to be ready. Excerpt, letter from Elder Heian to the 13th Circle of the College of Alchemists. Roosevelt had arrived to the Great Hall hours before the meeting. The entire room was relatively simple, if spatially impossible. Far overhead, massive lanterns of golden flames lit the entire hall. The walls were solid stone, and the ceiling was made from the largest timbers that Roosevelt had ever seen. The seats in the room were broken into two sections, each of the non-senior circle, each for the non-senior circles, and a general assembly for those not within the collegiate circle. In the center of the room was a large circular dais with 13 chairs on it and a single lantern. The 13th circle was set on the dais and addressed the lower circles, with Ruslov's appointment being the last order of business. He himself sat in the General Assembly, having not yet been formally recognized as a member of the 7th Circle. His brand new silk stole sat around his shoulders, indicating his title as owner. Already apprentices and journeymen were taking their seats. The seats of the first circle were the most numerous, with the apprentices streaming in. The journeymen took their place in the seats of the second circle, following soon by the Magi in the third circle. Roosevelt recognized the dark-skinned Adebayo amongst the Magi of the third circle. The fourth circle was the first to have the Elder Stoles. Its membership, primarily the newly minted elders, coming up from the third circle. The next group to enter were the members of the fifth circle, the first specialized circle. Each of them were well versed in evocation and the direct application of the aethers as direct forces. Lord Henry had transferred from the 5th to the 7th Circle years ago. The 6th Circle members were talking amongst themselves. Some were about 70 members, all specialized in the calling of entities and beings from beyond our reality. Among them were several alligators, covered head to toe in their impenetrable robes. Roosevelt paid very close attention to the seventh circle coming in, and Roosevelt only knew one by sight, Lord Henry, who had apparently disparaged Roosevelt's entry to the 13th circle. He narrowed his eyes slightly at them as the man came in, dressed in robes of deep mahogany. The 8th circle, specialized in imbuing, had the most members of any circle, around 1,000. They were followed in by the 9th, who had comprised the vast majority of scribes and instructors within the college. The 10th circle, masters of signs and hermetics, were followed by the 11th circle, dedicated students of transmutation. The second to last circle, the 12th, was comprised of the leaders of each of the lesser circles, and were in general contention to be promoted to the 13th circle eventually. A flash of light emanated from the dais, and the 13 members of the 13th Circle stood with their croziers in hand, looking out among the collection of alchemists. The leader of the circle, the elder among the alchemists, the eldest amongst the alchemists, strode forward and held his crozier aloft. Another flash of light, and a swirl of the etheric currents in the room. The doors locked in unison. Hermes Trismegistus called the meeting to order. Brusilov couldn't follow what most of the meeting was about, referring to internal matters within the physical college of the Citadel, or with minor issues of the Council. Finally, Peronel gave Brusilov a significant look from the dais, and Elder Trismegistus spoke, gestured towards the younger alchemist. Elder Peronel, you have the floor. She bowed slyly and stood smoothing out her robes. She approached the lectern with joviality. Elders, magi, journeymen, and apprentices, it is my great honor to announce that we have an installation today. Elder Diagolith, would you please join us on the dais? Rosov stood and took a steadying breath, his own crozier held loosely in his hand. He walked up the 3 steps to the dais and strode across, his feet absently silent in the handcrafted shoes he wore. Elder Peronel gave him a deep smile and turned to address the assembly once more. This man, Brusilov Diagolith, has shown mastery of the art in all required areas, and in significant quantity to obtain his rightful title of Elder. Please join me in welcoming him to the most august rank. A polite chorus of applause emanated from the assembled alchemists. As an elder, he would normally be conveyed to the 4th Circle until a specialized area of the art was shown to be in true mastery. In this case, and with the recommendation of the late Elder Haon, Elder Diagolith has petitioned, and the 13th Circle has acceded to his request to join the 7th Circle of Alchemy with the College of the Citadel. The assembly erupted in a genuine applause this time. Peronel looking over at the seats containing the 10 or so elders of the 7th Circle, beaming. Most of the men and women there were applauding with the same enthusiasm of the rest of the crowd, except for Lord Henry. A dark, ugly expression crossed the aristocrat's features as he stood, his slender crozier held in his hand, the etheric currents swirling around him as he channeled them to amplify his voice. The erroneous and flaminous aethers trembled as his voice rang out. This is an outrage! The entire assembly fell silent as Elder Henley strode out of section. The other members of the 7th Circle sat silently, in apparent dissent. This man, this dabbler, comes in here and is immediately given a stole and a place in our circle? This is an outrage. Elder Peronel looked unfazed as he smiled at Elder Henry. Elder Henry, do not approve of the unanimous decision of the 13th Circle. Do not approve of the unanimous decision of the 13th Circle. Elder Henry reached the stage and stood shaking with anger. I do not. In the absence of Elder Haon, I am the Alchemy. acting eldest of the 13th Circle. I demand we hold discourse with this. I have seen no proof of his skills. We have seen nothing of his abilities or his masteries. Elder Perenel looked up over at Ruslav. Do you have anything to say in your defense, Elder Diagolith? Ruslav took a step forward and nodded slightly. I do. You have named me Dabbler, Pretender, and Nipplety. I say the 13th Circle has declared this untrue. Do you challenge the word as well as Elder Heons? Lord Henry stood and strolled to the dice, letting his long silver crozier thump on the wood. I do. Elder Heon has not been seen for months, and now you come here, claiming to be his heir. I do not know what you have done to prove yourself to the 13th, but I certainly cast doubt on it. Rosal's brows nodded. Elder Heon entrusted me to come here and deliver a message after he died. The man saved my life and obeyed me to come here to join you, Elder Henry. Lord Henry looked back at the 7th Circle, gathering in the seats. Well, while you claim this is true, and you have convinced the council, you simply cannot override our autonomy as a circle. I and my colleagues name you Dabbler, and not fit to join our circle. Elder Perenel walked forward, and we, as the ruling circle, declare that your claim has no merit. With a unanimous decision of the 13th Circle, you have no legal grounds, according to the compact, to refute his entry. Lord Henry shook his head and said as strong, I have one last option. Elder Nicholas stood and took a step forward. Henry, you can't be serious. Lord Henry's face took on a purplish cast, and he held his crozier aloft, a slender rod of silver and malachite, fashioned into an Ouroboros at its head. I challenge you to the circle of balance. A murmur went up from the crowd as the words rang out. The murmur rose to a clamor until eldest Trismegistus slammed his crozier on the lectern's granite block. Silence! There has been a challenge to the circle of balance. Elder Diaglyph, do you accept? Roslav took a step forward and nodded. I do. May the wise prevail. In the seats of the 3rd Circle, Audabeo shifted slightly, not able to believe the person he met at the door yesterday was now challenging Elder Henry Percy. This was unprecedented. Beside him, his friend, Alan, gently touched his shoulders. Hey, Audabeo, I've got 6 LSD that Percy wipes the floor with that guy. Audabeo smiled and leaned back slightly. I wouldn't be so sure. 10 that Ruslav makes him look like a fool. Sometimes, when the wise cannot settle things with words, therefore, as part of this compact, we shall establish a procedure for determining who is correct. Barbaric? Maybe. But in cases where there are no resolution, whoever has just greater mastery of the art shall receive deference. The circle of balance shall be the final arbiter between 2 alchemists. Excerpt Compact of the eldest and most wise alchemists of the art. Roslav stood in the cleared days, Claire Diaz, across from Lord Henry, who held his crozier near the head, his hands tied around the metal. Roslav's own crozier was held loosely in his left hand, leaving his right hand free to whatever aethers was required. If you wish to end this peacefully, you still may, Elder Henry. Lord Henry shook his head, his emotions calm now, but still obviously determined to oust Ruslav. Hardly. You shall go nowhere and try to force your way into my circle. Never. I'm going to make you wish you stayed in Slavia. Elder Peronel took a step forward and held up a hand. Gentlemen, may the wise prevail. Begin. She turned and quickly walked out the dais, sitting in one of the relocated chairs at the edge of the dais. Lord Henry thrust his cane forward, gathering as much of the fulminous aether as he could from the currents around him. It came forward like a torrent, and he cried out, the energies coalescing into a massive fork of lightning. The chaotic stream streaked towards Ruslav, who held his right hand out, letting the energies within and without flow through him. The Tyrannus aethers responded easily to his desires. He mixed in the heavy stream of aqueous aether flowing out over the stage, and gently swiped his hand across his body. The force lightning streamed up towards the ceiling, and the energies harmlessly expanded into a globe of light. Lord Henry stared at Ruslav in disbelief. He took a moment to compose himself and took a step forward, his hands falling to his sides as he gathered igneous aethers. His crozier struck fast to his hip against a metal plate, energized by the Tyrannus aethers. A cry escaped his lips as he shoved his hand forward and over and over. For his fingertips, fire lashed out. The igneous aether nearly overwhelming as the lights around them dimmed. A dozen globes of fire streaked out in unison across the stage. Ruslav once again held up his hand, this time his left, as the erroneous aether flowed smoothly and without issue through his body once more, gathering the energies behind the fire and dispersing them harmlessly into the sky. The orb around them glowed brighter as Ruslav channeled all the violent power Henry threw at him into it. Henry let his hands fall to his side as he struggled to breathe, straining. What are you, a coward? Fight back! The elder alchemist reached into the ground, gathering Tyrannus and Varic aethers from all around them. Ruslav narrowed his eyes. Something was wrong. The power that Henry was throwing at him was tremendous, yes, but something was off. Ruslav gently gathered the aethers in him to expand his perceptions this time, as Henry unleashed the stored energies. Gravity surged around Ruslav, attempting to crush him to the ground. But it was a fraction of a second after Lord Henry unleashed his energies. There was something else going on. Ruslav waved his hands in a slow circle in front of him, easily dispersing the energies around him, and up to the skies, once again turning Lord Henry's destruction into harmonious balance. Henry's eyes bulged in his head, his frustration growing with every motion. Fine, you're from Slavia. Let's see how you like the cold. This time Ruslan focused on his hands, where the Aronis and aqueous aethers gathered in a torrent of power. They weren't gathering from the room, though. The aethers flowing around Lord Henry were barely being tapped. Just below his palms, in the beat of a hand, the aethers were flowing from somewhere else. Ruslan reached out for the first time, with his tenebros aether, the cold power of the vacuum beyond the stars. Lord Henry was pulled forward, the aethers gathering in his hands being redirected up to the sky, as the small slits in reality behind his palms were dragged forward, and Henry along with them. Ruslan strode forward, struggling to hold on to the etheric flows. Henry kneeled to the dais, his hands turning upward towards the pull of the tenebrous aether that Ruslan had summoned. Ruslan pulled his hands together against the tide of power, and suddenly spread them, expanding the portals. The black light poured out from the portals, expanded until the entire room could see beyond the ripping time and space. Beyond the dark edges of the portals, a figure could clearly be made out, terrible and powerful and hungry. The glowing visage of some malevolent entity smoldered as it looked at Ruslan. The cosmic abomination's eyes narrowed, and the squirming tendrils of one of its innumerable hands reached out towards the portal. Ruslan's eyes widened as he slammed his hands together. The tenebrous aether suddenly reversed, slamming the portal shut. A thunderous silence fell over the collected alchemists. The entire Elder Circle was on its feet, croziers in hands at the offense before them. Lord Henry fell to the dais, unable to support himself any longer. Lord Henry shuddered as he looked at Ruslan in panic. What was that? Ruslan, above Ruslan, a soft sound not unlike music emanated from the pulsating orb of white light. A newfound star. The ethers within the bolt of light emanated out in harmonious balance, the energies washing over the alchemists, all of them feeling the tormental power within. Elder Peronel smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling. A prismatic confluence. I'd say the proof he's no dabbler, Henry. Apparently you were not the only one who didn't want Ruslan within your circle. Henry lifted himself to his hands and knees. He looked at the gathered circle around him. What the hell just happened? Around the room, the circle erupted into chaos as the alchemists from the seventh circle strode out to Lord Henry's side. One alchemist, an Alagadan, laid his hand on Lord Henry's shoulder. This isn't over, Dabbler. The naked hatred in his eyes burned into Ruslan's. Ruslan shrugged and fixed his eyes on a heavy-eyed stare. Fixed him with a heavy-eyed stare. I'll be ready when you wish to try again. Lord Henry cried out as his colleagues gathered energy from the confluence. Wait, what are you doing? Quithronos, what is the meaning of this? With a flash of light, the group of alchemists in front of Ruslan dissipated into the ether. Elder Trismegistus strode forward to where Ruslan stood and put his hands on his shoulders. Well, this isn't good. Ruslan sighed heavily and rested his hand, his heavy cold iron crozier on his shoulder. It is time to deliver the message I came here to give. The Great Seal. It was a theory of my late master. As the only remaining member of the Seventh Circle and last heir to Elder Heian, I propose we put all efforts towards enacting the seal. It will take many years to gather the required energies and allies, but if we do not start now, our world will forever be terrorized by the entities that consume human lives and fates as playthings. Excerpt First Address of the College of the Citadel by Elder Ruslav Diaghilev, eldest of the Seventh Circle. And that was Restoring Harmony. And that's going to be the end of the stream for today. Oh. Hello, Captain.